Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Soldier Stories podcast. My name is Mark Ross, and with me this afternoon is retired Army veteran William Stevens, and he has quite a story to share with you all. So give it up for Brother William Stevens, and thank you, Brother William, for coming on to the show, man. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, man, thanks. I appreciate it, man. Thank you, Mark, for your service, and
Yes,
thanks
sir.
everybody who's out
Yes,
there
sir.
listening. Thank you for their service, first responders, and your sacrifice too. So,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But yep, let's get this thing going, bro. Um, some questions that I normally ask for, veterans such as yourself is are curious questions for me. But I know you spoke about your background, but what made you go into the military?
escape, home trauma, drunken father, broken home, pain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think if I didn't go in the military, I wouldn't be here right now.
Mm.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah,
So you
yeah. I
just went.
grew up in a very toxic childhood. So when my dad back then, when I was a kid in like the 70s and 80s. I was born in '69. That was discipline. The
Man, yeah,
belt, the belt was discipline.
yeah,
Now
yeah,
it's
yeah.
child abuse. But I escaped to being a street skater, man. I was a street skater, so I'm a street skater kid from Carlisle, Pennsylvania. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So.
I was born in '69 too, brother, so I understand.
Oh yeah, you just celebrated your birthday, man. We're both same age now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, man.
I understand. You know, belt to ass was the norm for us, wasn't it?
Well,
Or worse.
my dad was so drunk he missed the belt and hit me with the buckle.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. So
yeah. I get it. So you
yep.
went to you went to the military. I'm assuming right after high school, right?
18 years old, man. I was in basic training cohort, basic and
Same here.
advanced individual training,
Same
and then
here.
they sent me to. I went to Germany, and that was the first time I ever flew like long. Never like we didn't have a car, and I never flew in my life.
Mm-hmm.
So like the experience flying from Carlisle to Oklahoma in the crop duster,
Yeah.
I was like, you know, I thought that's what airplanes were like because I was only on like a 20-person plane, you know. But then when I flew to Germany, that was like 24 hours, man. Like I was
Mm.
like, damn, looking out the window like water. Like I didn't even know none of that. But when I got to Germany, man, like I think I was on station for 6 months, and then we got the call that we were going to Desert Shield, Desert Storm. Well, I didn't even know it was storm. We just heard we were deploying. We didn't even know the name of it. You know, I was just a private. I didn't know what was going on. They were just like, you're leaving the day after Christmas, 90.
Wow.
So, yeah, man. And we're
Yeah.
there till May 2nd, 91.
So what was your MOS?
13 Bravo Field Artillery.
Field artillery.
Boom, 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 boom.
Boom,
Tail
boom.
puller.
So
Pulling the tail.
you were dealing with the pew pews, huh?
But I didn't pull tail, man. I didn't pull tail because when I got to Germany, they made me like the commander's driver. Now, I hated that because you had to do everything and look nice and pretty and all that. My battery commander, my captain. But uh, then when I left that job, I went to the gun line to the section, and my first field problem, man, I was on KP, you know, that was in Hornsfeld, Germany. And I swear it was like 17 below me, and I'm out there trying to throw stuff in the cow pot in the ditch, messing around with baby boar hogs, baby piglets, and they got chased up the
Mm.
tree. That was my experience. But yeah, man, we went to the desert. Like, was it
Yeah.
90?
Okay,
Yeah.
1990. Okay.
Uh,
That was around
December.
Desert Shield, right?
Yeah. So it was Desert Shield, but I didn't know because Desert Shield started in August
Right.
of
It was in
90.
summer. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And we went and they pushed us immediately forward. Like I said, I wasn't a tail fooler. I was a ditch digger, and I held the increments up when they fired the rounds. I like ran like 100 meters away from the gun and was like, "Charge 7, charge 8, in the hole." That's all my job was, man. I was like cannoneer number 7 or something. Like it was garbage, man. Like I kept asking this guy Gonzalez in my section, "Why do I keep digging these foxholes?" He's like, "You could probably be buried in one." He said, "I don't think we're coming back." I'm like, "Wow." So
Hey, so
yeah, it was an experience, man. It
yeah,
was.
I was about to say, man, what was that like? Because I know you said you did several tours while you were out there. I mean, what was the experience like being in Iraq?
Well, that was Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, and then we went forward. I don't even know. Like they call it the LD.
The
The
what?
LD is the LD, the line of. So you're Army or Marine.
Marines.
LD is line of departure, like the line to cross to go into the enemy territory.
Yeah.
So
Yes. Yeah.
basically, that was a berm, like a big berm, you know, that
Mm.
the engineers built up. But I remember like they blasted through it, and our battery went through it, and this was like January, I think. And we just sat there, like they dug in. The engineers, I didn't even know what engineers were. They came and dug in at night, and we pulled our howitzers in. We were like in M109, yeah, M109, 155 howitzers, and yeah, we were in a ditch. So like when our tube came up, all you saw was the tube in the ditch, like we were dug in. So it was like a ditch. The howitzer sat in the tube, and we would only fire. I know we only fired at night. We did this thing called harassment integration fire, and they would shoot up the illums so that like I don't know, whoever else was in front of us or around us would hit targets of the Iraqi Republican Guard. But we realized that we were out in front, so I was part of First Army Division forward, but also so you have the division and then the corps was behind him, Seventh Corps, and I don't know where the Marines were at that time, but I know that there were some burning oil fields going on where we could see it burning, but we only got like the black smoke in the sky. Um, but where we were at, I remember our commander coming on and saying that, you know, we didn't have a lot of training. We survived. We're surviving in the desert. Like that's all it was desert heat, surviving, and eating MREs and stuff like that. And then he said, we are the direct engagement of so it would be indirect and direct fire of the Republican Guard when the war started.
Mm.
Like, oh, okay,
Mm.
sounds like we were a suicide battery,
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but we didn't take direct, but we did take indirect. And I think I told you. I remember I was one day we were eating breakfast, chow, and for all the American, not the people, the civilians, breakfast. And I remember holding my plate, and came up out of the ditch because like the chow truck or the truck couldn't get down in to give us food. And it was like quick serving food. And I had my plate, basically green eggs and ham. And I remember when I got to Germany, they made us study the cards. So when did you come in?
So what? What year?
When did yeah?
87.
Oh yeah, you came in before me. So that was the Cold War era. Okay, that was like the Cold War era. Like the Cold War was just ending. So
Okay.
like they made us study like Russian vehicles on a deck of cards. I don't know if you've ever saw those before, but
No.
like there was like T-72, 64, imps, and all kinds of stuff like air defense guns. And I remember because like I remember when I was in Germany, I saw those cards, and then while I was at Chow, a T-72 came in from behind a berm. Like it came in around the berm, and it like fired into our battery a couple rounds, and all I heard
What?
was Yeah, fire mission, target that tank, direct front, direct fire. It was like ATPD, charge 8 red bag, and all 8 guns like kind of like their tubes like came up so much, and they all were like turning and trying to aim at the tank, and I was standing there holding my plate. Well, a bunch of us are standing there. I'm like, did my light just flash in front of my eyes?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you
yeah.
can hear the guns firing like boom, 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 like 8 guns fired one round, and like I just chased it off. You know, I don't know, man. But like after that, our guard was very up. Like we were very lax for a while because we didn't know the enemy was out. We didn't know that the Iraqi Republican Guard was about a mile away. Yeah, they were like about a click or two away because I remember them saying that you could see movement at night. Because I know when we went up from Saudi Arabia all the way up, everything was noise and light discipline. We didn't even use lights when we drove up there. We weren't even allowed to use flashlights in the dark. I mean, and nobody smoked cigarettes because the little
The light to give
fire.
you away. Yeah, give you
Nobody
away.
was allowed to smoke cigarettes because of how far we were up. But I think when the war started, I remember it was only 96 hours. It wasn't a long engagement, like prolonged. I remember like full engagement of like the Marines, First Army Division, Seventh Corps, and all that, and whatever was else out there in the desert. But so in the howitzer, we have a guy called the number one man. He's the dude that like loads the round in the tube.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well, I guess doing harassment integration fire, he busted his wrist on the breach. Like the breach comes back like super quick and it
Okay.
opens. So
Okay.
I guess his hand was in the way and it broke his wrist.
Ah.
Yeah, so my chief calls me up in the gun. He's like, Stevens, you got number one? I'm like, I don't know any of that. Like you got me out here looking inside, I'm out here digging holes. So I remember our commander came down and said like the president just came on national television and said that there was like a ceasefire, like they have an agreement, but First Army Division and Seventh Corps is going to fire 45 rounds for 45 minutes, you know, into the thing that we call what's it called? The highway of hell, the highway of death.
Yeah.
So I guess all the Iraqi Republican Guard, they were withdrawing and they were hiding all their tanks and vehicles and stuff on the expressway with civilian vehicles and stuff, so that we couldn't figure it out. But like the A-10s came down and struck all that stuff, and like carbon bombed all that stuff and made it all black and like burned up and incinerated. And I remember my chief was like, Steven, can you do it? And I'm like, I think I can. And it came down, fire mission 45 rounds, fire for effect. And it was just like constantly. And I was like 205 at the time, firing sustainment rate of fire for a gun is 3 rounds per minute for 4 minutes. Man, all I know is I was just slinging Joes, man, just slinging Joes. It was the same thing. Like they would hand them in, they had the ATPD on it, and charge 8 red bag. The red bag was super long red, and I was sticking in there, and I didn't even think we even swabbed the tube. We were firing so quick, and we fired into the dark. Like we fired, it was getting dark, and I remember I was so broke off, man. I got up in the gun, I got up in the howitzer on top, and I could see in the sky, man, like these like flares. They looked like flares, but they were the MLRS unleashing
Missiles.
unleashing hell, man. And then we had to go forward, and we went to the highway of hell. And because we're artillery, we followed the engineers, and they dug like a path. And we drove through, but it was wild because like we could like look out the hatches, And being 19 years old, like I witnessed my first like death, like on the battlefield. You know, none of our guys got killed, but you could see like just I want to say vaporized bodies, all black dudes like sitting on the back of trucks still with their weapons, just
and they were charred.
They were charred, man.
And you saw
like,
this.
I saw this with my own eyes, man. Yep. Now we weren't allowed to walk on the ground because there was little DPICM, like little dual purpose immunity. I forget what DPICM is. It's been a while, but little bomblets were laying on the ground and shit. But the engineers dug a path so that we had to go that way, you know, to leave. So, but because we were coming back. So, yeah, man, it was wild, man. It really was wild.
Was there a moment, man, Brother Will? Was there a moment where you actually feared, like, I might die today?
Oh yeah. I mean, like I said, my life flashed in front of me when that tank came into our position, you know. And my first book that I wrote 96 hours, a story called 96 Hours. And it has the tank story in it, and it has that we fired and stuff like that. But I thought that was the Army, and I got back, you know, and then I went to Fort Carson and re-enlisted for 4 years, and then I had a huge awakening there. So,
Jeez. So I remember you said that in one of your tours, you did it without using a weapon.
oh yeah, my fifth combat tour. So I had multiple tours. So I had 2 tours in Korea. They weren't combat, and I'm not a Korean War veteran. I look like a Korean War veteran, but um, I have 4 years in Germany, 2 tours in Carson, and I did multiple like desert operations at Carson. So it was Carson, Korea, and then I went to Lewis and did another rotation, and then I went to Iraq when I got to Fort Riley. So I did OIF 1 and 2 slash. We were at the end, and then I think it was 3 or 4, and that's when I became an advisor for field artillery. Because my last assignment, that was my 4 years, and when I became a field artillery advisor, I was the E7. Um, we were supposed to go out and evaluate National Guard, but like because I had a TS, I was what's it called, S2 or Intel. Like, and my commander wanted me to like get everybody set up for success when they like get them all top secret security clearances and vouch everybody and then do like intel briefings for the units. But when I was there, it wasn't even shortly like 2004. Our mission changed and we went to Fort Dix, New Jersey, where we would run combat convoy lanes for Afghanistan and Iraq. National Guard and Reserve and some active units came through. And I remember my big thing there was I was help running the lanes, and I was one of the people selected to help read the Sergeant Major of the Army when he came. And that was a huge moment. Like I didn't really do much, just like pointing at a sand table and the big players, the bigger people above me, the rank, the brass. They had the main key part of briefing, but I remember I was in. I think no, I wasn't. I was engaged to be married. So yeah, I was engaged to be married. Or it was just my fiance. Like I had asked her to marry me, but I remember that our commander came to us and said, "We need one person from each." So there was a major, a captain, and then they didn't want anyone that was married, but really everybody was married except for me and this Hispanic speaking guy Gomez. So it was 3-star first class. Yeah, you were voluntold. And they wanted like the sharpest people, like Gomez. He spoke Spanish, and then there was a Tilly guy who was just cocky. We didn't get along. None of us got along, but we learned quick to get along. Like I do one thing I will say. I remember sitting in a room while we're writing our death letters, the letters to our family.
What?
Yeah, because like it's kind of like you leave a note for your family in case you don't come back.
Yeah.
I had never done that like at deployments ever before, but like our commander was like, he was a real close knit group. Like it was like 50 sergeant first classes, family support group was real tight and all that. And our commander was really for the soldiers, the NCOs. We had no soldiers in our unit. We're all NCOs.
Yeah.
And he said, if something happens to you all, we'll give these letters out. And I remember sitting down looking at my buddy like, how many times have you been in combat and did this? And you know, here you are you're interacting with people that you don't even like. The other teams didn't like each other, you know, because some people were better than they thought they were better. They had more awards than everybody. And I was just thinking to myself, I'm like, what are we going here for? Why are we going there? Why? And all I heard was we were a combat arms assessment team. And I was like, what is the definition of a combat arms assessment team? I have never heard of that ever in the Army. And I guess the Center of Army Lessons Learned in Fort Leavenworth set up this new thing where you would go in the theater, and I thought you went in the theater with weapons, but because it's called MTEL, Mission Essential Task Listing, as advisors, you only dress the part and have like walkie-talkies and sunglasses. and you wear the helmet and all that. We didn't qualify on weapons. We qualified people on weapons. You know, we were the subject matter experts of the Army, you know. So why not send us, you know, they send us in the theater, but we were told we were going in the theater to evaluate training that was conducted in the States for the units. I remember the first unit we fell on when we got to Fallujah. It was the Puerto Rican National Guard. And that's why we had Gomez, because like he was the Spanish speaking dude. And when we were at Fort Dix, man, they didn't speak a bit of English, man. It was like crazy. Each team had to have like an interpreter. But when we got to Fallujah, they were all speaking English, man.
Are you serious?
Yeah, man. And the Puerto Rican Nations, they came from Puerto Rico and processed through us and then went straight to Iraq. Like there was no, hey mom, we're coming home. They were already like locked and cocked and like, and we trained them to the standard because like, it's funny. None of them had when they went through our lanes, you were not allowed to have a cell phone. Today, no. Because we always talked about being compromised, you know.
Right.
Because these units that we trained, they were security force VIP escorts. Like they would use like sat phones and SINCAR radios, but like if they need to call home or something, they would go to like the internet cafe, or they would go internet cafe, like I don't know, in a tent or something. But they would use the sat phone to call home. Like there would be like a bunch of them that would call home on a sat phone, but like you dare have a cell phone because like they track all of that, you know,
right,
location and all that. And if they're moving a VIP, why are they going to be on their cell phones? And we thought that was pretty cool. That you know, like we thought we were going to see a lot of cell phones. We didn't see. I don't know if they had them with them, but they were not allowed to have them out when they were on mission. I'll tell you that. But our job, we were like the VIP, and they protected us. But we would go out into like the villages, and I remember one of the village people, the people in the village, one of the Iraqi like Mamads or whatever they call it, like a mayor or something. We met with them, and they were telling us about where the bad people were because like we didn't want to be around the bad people. You know, we were just trying to see how the everyday things that the military did for procedures, you know, because the enemy adapted to everything. They adapted. Like, they adapted so quick, like, you know, going under an underpass and scanning for IEDs and looking along the road. I remember, like, one of my jobs was I would watch a gunner, and I would talk to the gunner when I'm sitting inside the up armor, and I would draw, like, a little piece of paper, like, his distance would be, like, 25, 50, 100. And then he would explain things, and I would write little notes because, like, the manual that we finally made back in Kansas that was produced was pictures, diagrams, and then words or flow charts, because a lot of leaders were young sergeants, young staff sergeants, even specialists or corporals were leading convoys, and you didn't have time to read words. You had to look at a flow chart or memorize a flow chart like a battle drill. That's what we made, like battle drills. But yeah, we fell on I think 3 units, 4 units, and then we went back to Kuwait, and like, everything was top secret. And we're like, how the hell are we going to put a top? Why are we putting the top secret manual out to soldiers who don't even have security clearance? Some that can't even get security clearances. So I remember, and I like to talk about this because I think it's funny, because like we put everything together. Only our major had like a tablet, a laptop. We weren't allowed to have we weren't allowed to have cell phones or anything. But we had one sat phone. And I remember when we got back to Kansas, we were in the same hotel that we were in before we left, and it was a huge area, like it was a huge business area, and like they used the hotel for like briefing rooms. And I remember us sitting out on the couches, right, and there was a blackboard, and we're sitting out there in uniform. Sometimes we were in civilian clothes, but like I remember we would talk about what we did in theater, and people would walk by, and our majors like writing stuff on the chalkboard. That's like classified, like top secret, you know. And we all had TSs, top secret. And I'm like, it ain't top secret no more, But it was funny because then when we went to meet like the what is it called, the analysts and stuff at Fort Leavenworth at the Center of Army Lessons Learned, all of it was declassified. It was all declassified. Everything that we gave them, they just made sure that we didn't like keep any notes or anything. Everything was scrubbed off his laptop, the major's laptop, and they put this manual together, man. 0622, Security Forces Handbook, and we got back to Fort Dix, and then came back to New Cumberland because we live here. I live in New Cumberland now, and the manual came out, and from what I heard, it was the most requested publication in the entire United States Army. And then also, I didn't know that it was being used for other branches. So, and everybody, the two guys, the two senior enlisted, they made master sergeant. The captain made major, and the major made lieutenant colonel. But I didn't make master sergeant because I had a person called a career killer tell me that because you have attitude, it's like the whole time I've always had an anger issue, an attitude. And even though I thought that was the punch ticket, it wasn't the punch ticket because my sergeant major gave me a 3. And on evaluation reports, when you're senior competing for the next rank, you get 1s. Even if you get a 2, you might get promoted. But I remember my senior rater was my colonel. He gave me a 1, and my sergeant major, E9, gave me a 3 block. So my fiance at the time was a psych nurse. And she said, I told her, I said, I got 1 year left. My career's in jeopardy. They want to send me to Afghanistan. I've never been to Afghanistan. That would be my 6th combat deployment. I said, I got to get out. I got to get out of this. So she said, what can you do? And then I found out Walter Reed had a program called the Wounded Warrior Transition. And that was all branches. All branches could go there. And I didn't know what it was, but I heard like all the injured that were coming from Germany and stuff were going to Walter Reed and being rehabilitated.
Yeah.
So I said, you know what? Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, how did that affect you mentally, all those tours? So now you talked about going into Walter Reed. So go ahead and continue, brother.
I was messed up, man, because like I had anger issues. I thank Kelly, my ex-wife, for being there for me as a psych nurse. I never dated I've always dated girls and stuff, but like this was like the real, I was going to get married,
Yeah, yeah.
So 2000, December 28th, 2006, I got married. And we actually had a miscarriage in 2005. Yeah, when I was out on the range, I passed out. I had to go to the hospital, and then she was like, "Hey, I had a miscarriage." I'm like, "Well, I can't come back." So that kid never came in the world, which is a sad story. But yeah, I had a lot of anger issues, and then a lot of the guys didn't like me because, like, I don't know, I was just a jerk. I was a jerk, man, because I was already on medication. Like I was taking some meds, you know, and I didn't really disclose it. And um, I went to Walter Reed. I had a psychological evaluation, thinking like, yeah, this is stupid. And the next thing I know, like a therapist, like a colonel came out and said, "We're going to accept you into Walter Reed. We're going to accept you into our program." And I'm like, "Program?" And he's like, "Yeah, so we're going to cut orders and you're going to be attached from your unit to us. And then when you come down, then you're going to get final orders and you're basically going to sign your career away." And I'm like, "No Afghanistan?" And they're like, "No, nothing after Walter Reed. Like you're hitting the brakes. You're
Mm.
going to the street. You're going to be a civilian." So I
That is,
thought it'd just be funny. I thought it'd be fun and games, man. But like when you're, a lot of people were in civilian clothes there, and I think I don't want to say much about the staff because a lot of the staff were like failures in the army because like to rehabilitate them, you know, to rehabilitate them, like maybe they have anger issues or they got in an altercation, a DUI, and they always rehabilitate people. So like they needed cadre. It wasn't like you put in a recruiter packet or a cadre packet and you go there. It was like you had issues, so you dealt with people that had issues, you know. But me, I was a 7, and I had a staff sergeant that was in charge of me because
mm.
of position, you know. And it was like you're not using no rank here. You have no rank. You just wear that shit on your uniform. We had
Yeah, yeah,
ATUs at the time, you
yeah.
know. But I answered to a colonel, a full bird colonel, and he explained to me the reason why some of us are here is because we need a break. And he said, "You just happen to be accepted into the like inpatient outpatient psych program." I'm like, "Psych? You mean like, you
Crazy.
know?"
Yeah,
Yeah. And like,
yeah.
uh, I'll just tell you that it was a rude awakening because like if you've never been to the Wounded Warrior Transition Unit, you see what comes off the battlefield. Like after they are, and they even took us around and showed soldiers and we talked to soldiers and stuff. And you know, but the ones that came out of like a coma and stuff like that and didn't have arms or missing limbs, and then
Mm.
they stayed at the guest house. They didn't stay in the barracks where we were. They stayed in the guest house, which was super nice. Their families could come and stay there. It was very high class. The
Yeah,
food was good, but when you're sitting in there eating and you see them, you don't see my wounds, but you see their wounds. But it was amazing that they didn't talk about mental health. I
mm.
sat down and talked to some of them. They didn't worry about mental health. All that happened in the hospital room. Now they're rehabilitating and trying to get the hell out of there so that they can go start a life or try to, you know, do something. Because I noticed that organizations would come in and have job fairs, you know,
Okay,
and
okay.
they would snatch these people up and make them like wounded warriors, you know, for their organization. And while I was there, I got snatched up and went and worked for, I did an internship for security because I still had my TS. It was funny, I still had my TS, but I was in an inpatient outpatient psych unit. Like they didn't take that away from me. So I kept that and went and worked for, I won't tell you who they are now, but I'll tell you who they were. They were Defense Security Services in like downtown DC in the area. And I went and I remember Tim and Jason were my mentors. And they showed me personal security, information security, physical security. Like I got to work in the skiff and all that and learn all that security stuff, thinking that what am I going to do with this when I get out? They even helped me like finalize my resume because I worked there 3 days a week. Like I didn't get paid. And I think the coolest thing is when I was there because like I would go to therapy in the morning, and I'll explain therapy in a minute. But um, my teenager, the whole year I was there, when I left, they had like a big going away for me because I was their first wounded warrior. I received, I didn't even know this award existed. It's called the Joint Service Commendation Medal. When you work for joint branches, you receive an award for a joint service.
Yeah.
So even though I got an MSM when I left my unit because like I did the Iraq thing, you know, that's what they gave me. They gave me an MSM for going to Iraq. The other guys, the major and the captain got Bronze Stars, and the seniors got MSMs. And then I got another MSM for PCSing from there, like end of my tour, like final retirement. But when I left the agency, they gave me the Joint Service Commendation Medal, and I was like, damn, I'm a patient and I got an award? What the hell? You know? But I'll tell you now, I remember when we went to therapy, there were 12 people in our group. And this is what hit me the most because, like, I didn't think that trauma was outside combat. Okay. So I'm in this therapy room and we did stuff like this. We did red light therapy. We did response to colors like red. And we would go in like this closet and there would be like chicken wire and a table and you'd have buzzers. You'd have a white buzzer and a red buzzer. And they would flicker these lights, right? White lights would flicker. You flicker how many white, you flicker how many red. It was like cognitive like response, you know? And then we had things where there was a whiteboard. Every morning we go into the room, we would sit down like school students, you know, and they would say, Bill, will you get up and tell us about your day? And I'd get up and go to the whiteboard, and the whiteboard had two markers, a red one and a black one. And if you were feeling shitty that day, and you wrote in red. And if you were having relapse from combat, everything was in red. But eventually, you watch the transition go from red and black, or all red, to red and black, and then black stick figures, and then there was no drama or combat. It was just like you draw a little stick figure and explain what you're doing. So that was kind of like a growth thing, you know? And I can understand that. Like, I wrote in my book I was waiting to play Duck Duck Goose because it was so weird sometimes. Because when I first wrote my book, The Mirror, I had to change it because I said they issued us scissors, right? And someone caught that they're like, they issued like scissors in psychiatric ward. I was like, no, I gotta go back and check that because they were the little scissors you get in like kindergarten that are like dull.
Mm.
Yeah, so we would do like they would give us magazines and they would tell us like today's project is you're going to explain what you want to do when you get out. So you had to cut like words out.
Okay.
You know, and it wasn't like adult. You know, it was kind of like middle class because they didn't want you to think you were adult or a child. They wanted you to like no drama, no stress. So like we would cut out like words or different letters and glue them together and hold it up, you know. But some people were having really shitty days, man. And I'll get to the cool thing here. Each person came out at a different time. Like, we only knew first names. We didn't know rank. We weren't allowed to wear our rank. We weren't allowed to wear our last name. We were only allowed to wear U.S. Army or if you were Air Force. Everybody was Army except for one female. And she was authorized to wear her the brown dress, black skirt. She was a staff sergeant.
Okay.
Is that what they wear like in recruiting?
Recruiting. I would say they wore the greens, the dress greens.
Okay, but this is like a brown shirt and a black skirt. She had black pumps, like black heels, and she had her ribbons on.
Okay. Yeah.
Ribbon wrap.
That must be Army because in the Marines they wore dress greens.
Yeah, whatever it was. I know that she did not wear the black jacket. She had like a brown shirt underneath it. What is the shirt underneath the black jacket?
That I don't know.
She had a weird little, I don't know. She was a Marine because she told us that she never spoke during our class. She didn't interact with nothing. She just watched and observed. And she was the last person to come out. And that's when I saw the difference between combat and trauma, like sexual trauma. And I don't use no names to protect people. Hell, I don't even remember her name. All I know, she was a staff sergeant, and she said that she was abducted in her recruiting office by her first sergeant commander. Her husband was in the next room, and that's why she was there, because she was there for protective custody. Like, she just spilled the beans. Like, we were getting ready to all leave. You know, my retirement was coming up, and she just spilled the beans. Like, she was the last one to come out, and we were like, I was jaw dropped. I'm like, that shit. I didn't know that shit happened in the military. Like, I never heard of that. Like, sexual trauma like that. You know, I was always in an all male unit. You know.
Oh, yeah.
But
It goes down, brother. Yes, sir. Has been for
but
decades.
yeah. And then the thing that I will never ever forget is we had a chaplain, and he was a colonel. He told us he was a colonel, and I'll just say his name was Joe, and he was not wearing the crosses like on your uniform. He didn't have them. He took them off. You could see where he ripped them off. He really didn't even care about his uniform, but he said the reason he was there is because sometimes you have to take a break when you bury 250 soldiers that you don't even know. And he said it hurts when you go to people's houses and tell them that the soldier's not there no more, you know, or a family member. And then he also said that the reason why he was there was because he was in combat with his driver, and I guess they were going to a church service, and the convoy got overran, and his driver got hit in the head, sniped, was taken out. Like, this happened so quick, I don't even know how he said they didn't even, like, get the driver. Like, they were in a firefight. He picked up a weapon that he was not even qualified on and fought his way out of a situation with some female MPs. And he said that God left him down. God left him down because his driver got hit in the head, and he had to, like, basically they ran to another vehicle to get out of there because they got overrun. And, like, I was just stunned. I was like, damn, I didn't know chaplains didn't carry weapons on the battlefield. I thought they carried a little pew pew or something, you know?
Yeah.
But they don't. They carry, like, a Bible and a little kit for, like, prayer. That's why they have a driver.
Because the driver is strapped. Yeah, the driver is strapped.
Protection. Yeah. So he took the M16 and fought his way out, and he said that he does not want to study, practice religion no more, and all he wants to do is fade away. Like, okay. So I was given the opportunity 31 October 2008 to retire.
Yep. And you did, and you retired.
Yep. But while I was at Walter Reed, we had our daughter. My daughter was born in June, and I wasn't allowed to go home. I only was allowed to go home and see the birth, and then I came back because I wasn't allowed to travel because of my condition.
Right.
So they actually let me drive home, and then I drove back after her birth, and I think I was home for 3 or 4 days. And I remember when I was home, they did like an article on me, and that'll come up a little later. But they did an article on me while I was there, my daughter at the house and stuff. But yeah, I retired, and then I came home, and that's when the battle started, man. When you bring the battlefield to the living room.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about how bad was your PTSD? You know what I'm saying? Because when you got released and you had to readjust to, you know what I'm saying, civilian life, but your mind is back there still. You know what I mean? Your mind is still refreshed on what you had to deal with. But now you're just in a different environment, but your mind is still the same.
I call that tunnel vision. Because There's a lot of people right now that I interact on the internet that still think they're that rank or still think that they have those awards. You have to leave all that behind. Like, transition for me was super hard because I
Mm-hmm.
was 43 and I became a dad at 43.
Mm.
And to get out of the military, not know how to write a resume, they didn't teach me none of that in TAPS. All we learned how to do was like put our accolades down, and that was a resume, and learn how to wear a tie in TAPS. Transition Assistance Program. That was a joke. That was the worst program in the military for Army, especially at Walter Reed. They took 2 weeks and crammed it into like 1 week because of money allocations. So the battle started when I got home because now you have a psych nurse who treats you like a patient in front of your daughter. So I was always yelling, mentally abusing my wife and my daughter. And because when I got home from Walter Reed, I was on 10 different bottles of meds. And I took one of two pills 3 times a day. So I probably was popping 48 pills a day. And I was zombified. And I went to my first job interview for a cola company. I was 43. I got the job, and my boss was 27 years old. And he told me after I got hired, he said, "You're not a soldier no more. You're my soldier." That's what he told me. He said, "You're not a soldier no more, but I'm in charge and I'm your boss." He goes, "You can leave all that shit from the Army, all that leadership stuff." He goes, "You're a merchandiser. You're the low person on the totem pole." He goes, "And you will be on your route." And I'm like, "Yes, sir. Yes, sir." Thinking to myself, this guy's a jerk,
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah.
it was a cool job, but I didn't like how management and stuff talked to me like it.
Of course.
Wally World, you
Yeah.
know, stores, way people would tell you, "Hey, boy, get down there and get them cubes." Like I told you, I'd never pick up a cube ever again. It's like horror to me. Like a cube of sodas, like the square box, not like the long ones, but the square cubes.
The square,
I
yeah.
hated those. And then they don't know in the cola industry, like when you build those displays for NFL and stuff you see, in the stores.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
I'll just say this. If Coke is not there and supposedly you work for Pepsi, and I don't work for none of them, but let's say Coke is not there to take the display down, Pepsi's taking the display down, and you're going to restack all that soda for Coke in the back. Maybe their car broke down or they didn't come because they know that you're a trainee and you're going to do their job for them. And then they give you a diagram and you have to build this thing out of products, like color products. Hopefully that it's put together. You don't get no training on it at all. And then like 2 hours later, you're late for your next route. The 27-year-old comes in and goes, "No, that color's supposed to be here." And he has to do it, and you go to the next route, and then you get like counseling for not knowing how to do things. So I basically just took all the soda product stuff, the shirts, and all the cool stuff they gave me, and was like, "You can have this shit. I'm not working for you
Take
guys no
that.
more." And
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
have a job, didn't have
yeah.
a job, and then uh, I went to the Pennsylvania Elizabethtown Police Academy, like a not correctional officer training. So I went there and I made sure that I hope no one knew I was military. Like I'd not speak, you know, because people tell me you dare speak. But I remember being in class and they voted for like a class leader. It was me and this black guy who was in the army, and I got voted as a student first sergeant from class 667C. And if they messed up, it was on me. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember that because I remember like being, in a first sergeant position or being in like a leadership position in the army. And I'm like, oh, this is a little bit like the army. And like we
Yeah,
even
yeah,
went to the range and qualified and with the with sidearm and did hand to hand and girls
yeah,
beat up guys and guys
yeah.
beat up girls and detainee and all this. And then I went to the prison with a big head, this huge head. I went into the prison, and let me tell you what, it ain't about brotherhood. It ain't about veteran. It's about trust and who you, because
Mm.
guards go in there and give stuff to inmates, you know,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and
Yep.
and I didn't last a year there. I was a trainee, and what was sad about the prison is you couldn't talk to the inmates about your problems. You dare do that,
Yeah,
and
you're
you
right.
couldn't even talk. You couldn't talk to the staff about that. You could talk to maybe the sergeant or the lieutenant, but you were weak.
Yeah.
So guess where you took it? Home.
Oh.
So because I was a trainee and I did detainee operations in Iraq, they threw me to the wolves. So I worked with Class A inmates, murderers and killers. And the stuff that they say to them, to me, I couldn't say back. So I said it to my wife and my daughter. So finally, while I was at the prison, I got a phone call from the Navy. And this guy said, I remember we were at Crayola World, like in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, I don't know where it was. And they were doing something with dinosaurs, and I said, hey, I got to take this phone call. And the guy was like, hey, and he was like my civilian mentor from that day. He said, I want to change your life and I want you to come work for the government. And I was like, are you kidding me? He's like, we have your resume from Walter Reed. And I'm like, what? He goes, I want you to meet Miss Stevens. And like they did it right there on the phone. Her name was Francine Stevens, and our names were the same. I couldn't
Okay.
believe it. So I
Yeah.
spoke to her, and she basically redid my resume where I didn't even have to do an interview. Like they just brought me into the civilian government because I had just got out, so I still had a TS for 2 years. It doesn't go away. You can still hold it for 2 years.
Okay.
Like I didn't even get debriefed. So I went in as a GS 11 and I stayed at GS 11 for 16 years. I didn't advance.
So,
So I'll tell you how toxic it was real quick. My boss had been with the government for 40 years, female. And
woo,
then Stevens, she was with the government for like 20 years. And she told me, don't kiss ass and don't talk back. And she said, but I know you have an attitude problem, so you're not probably going to last here long. She was my boss from 2009 to 2015. One director, one director. From 2015 to 2023, I had 7 security directors. When they're at the top, they don't last long.
they don't last long.
And I'll tell you what, I had some altercations where, like, I look at people, and in the civilian government, you look at someone the wrong way, and be like, oh, he wants to kill me. And that's what's written on the sworn statement. So, like, I've had my security clearance taken away from me. I fought for my security clearance, and I won. And then I got repercussions because they still didn't believe in me.
Right.
And then finally, the nail in the coffin was uh, I would interview for like a different couple jobs. Like I'm trying to get like a 12 position,
Yeah.
but no one really liked me. But I still did good work. So I went from security specialist to access control and then assistant anti-terrorism officer. And I was trying to get that head position that wasn't even set up yet for access control, where I would be in charge of anti-terrorism and access control in our building, not like the gate. Because we had an admiral, a 2-star, where people got vetted to come in. Like you were not coming in that building unless you worked there or you were vetted through the security system. And
Right.
if you didn't have credentials, you weren't getting in or biometrics. But I worked during COVID. I was the only one that worked in our building during COVID because everybody was home with their families and their loved ones. Because I didn't have family, I was already, separated. My kid was already gone to Florida, and I volunteered and did access control. I even came in on Saturdays, but I was the enemy. People were saying if something would happen, it would be me. You know, if there would be an active shooter or something, it would be me because people thought that I had anger issues. Like I would stare at people like. But here's what's funny: when you do security checks and you go and find like higher executives, their pill bottles on their desks and stuff. Me, I never talked about my pills, but I was always like, "Did you take your pills today?" To me, you take your
Mm,
pills today.
yeah.
Maybe you need to take your pills, and I'm like, "You're the person with the pill bottle on your desk." You know, shit that I would never take. Lithium, I used to take that. You know, I'm like, maybe you want to keep your private life out of your government life on your desk. You know, you might want to take that home. You know, and not pop those while you're at work. But I threatened my boss in 2023 just to nail it on the coffin. They took my ID card. I got escorted out by DOD police. I was working on a project on the weekend. Like I said, he came in. He was like, "What the f are you doing here?" And I'm like, "Really gonna talk to me like that? Like, you know, I had like problems at home." And he's like, "I don't really care about your problems at home." He goes, "I want to know why you're here. I told you not to be here until Tuesday." I'm like, "Well, you gave me a project that was due on Monday, and I thought that I would come in without anyone knowing." So he was like, and I said, "If you talk to me like that again, it's not going to be you or me walking out of the office. It's going to be me walking out of the office, and I'm going to silence you." And as soon as I said that, it was like a direct response. He went in his office. He called the DOD police. Like five of them came in the office
Mm, yeah. Yeah.
on a Sunday. And then when I walked out, there were three out in the hallway. And I was like, "Well, you're not going to embarrass me because there are people here working." You know, no, it was a Saturday. I remember it was a Saturday. And there were people working in the building. And I said, "We're going to go out the side." So I went out the side. They took my credentials. They took my laptop. And I just sat at home for like 2 months. But I talked to my mentor, Tim and Jason, and they said, "You need to file for reasonable accommodation. And if they deny your reasonable accommodation to move to a different position, you could file for civilian disability retirement." And that's what I did. I went through the system. No one in the unit, no one in the command helped me. I reached out to a Navy girl who was stationed in Hawaii because they were still working from home. She worked for like HR for the Navy branch, like headquarters Navy, Department of the Navy. And she helped me through like the insurance process and stuff. And then when I worked for the government, I learned how to stack paper, you know, professionally. When you put them this way and this way to read, I tabbed everything. I made sure that my psychiatrist did his portion, and I sent everything to my friend Jason, who's like a GS-14, and he said he needs to rewrite that because that's not plain. You know, they can't really read that. That's like doctor terminology. And when
Mm.
they go through your civilian records, or for these people that look through your records, are not Joe shit the ragbag. Like only I think 22% civilian government disability retirements in the state that I was in gets approved in the DOD.
How many? What's the percentage?
22%. Because most of the time the reasonable accommodation is approved. Yeah, man. My on was it 23? No, 28 April 2023. I received an email, and it said, "You're officially debriefed from the civilian government. You've been terminated." That's all it said. And a letter, the termination letter, came with it that I had to like scan and sign and send back. That was like my debrief for a security clearance. Because I had a top secret, I was told it needed to be done in person. But they see me as a threat and didn't want me to come back. I was like, "Okay, cool, no problem." So I sent that letter. It joined my packet, and I think August, August, yeah, August 23. I received a letter and it said your civilian disability retirement had been approved. And I'm like, I'm retired from the I'm retired from the Army.
Right.
I just recently got 100% PNT in 2022, and now I'm retired from the civilian government. And what they did was, because I was 11 step 13, like I was maxed out on the step process of being a GS 11.
Right.
They pushed me to GS 12 and retired me at 20 years. They took like time from my military.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't even have to pay in or anything. So I'm completely retired from twice from the military and the civilian government.
Yeah.
So I wrote a bunch of books about it, man.
Yeah, man.
And two of my books had to be approved by the Pentagon, man, because of what I talk about.
Now talk about the book that you yeah, talk about your books right quick.
So there's real quick, there's The Mirror, which is therapeutic poetry. That was written in 2018 after my dad died. I had collected a bunch of poetry while I was in the military. I was kind of like an anger poet. I wrote dramatic, dark poetry. That book came out in 2018, and then May 4th, May the 4th be with you. I was sitting on my back porch contemplating suicide because I was in between my civilian job. I didn't know if I was going to get, even though it was approved, I didn't know where to go in life. I didn't know if I could afford my house, if I wanted to sell my house. So I started talking to my phone, and I wrote The Broken Mirror. And when I wrote The Broken Mirror, I didn't know when it was going to come out, but I was like, well, I retired on Halloween. So let's drop it on 24 Halloween, October. But September, I sold my house for $300,000, and I bought an RV, and I started doing podcasting with like veterans. And yeah, I wasn't a podcast host. I didn't know how to do none of that. But I was speaking about my trauma, my drama, my journey. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to go out with the cat and the dog out on the road by myself in my RV. I stopped in North Carolina and helped some people with the flood. Gave out, the book hadn't come out yet. So I had like challenge coins and stickers and just talking to people that are going through that traumatic issue with floods and stuff. Some of them don't want to be here. And then I made it all the way down to Florida, living at different campgrounds. And I had to pull that whole mission because my ex-wife lost her job, and I had to make sure that my kid was taken care of. So while I was down there, The Broken Mirror came out on Halloween. And then I found out while I was out on the road that The Broken Mirror won 2 national book awards. And that was International Impact Book Award for military, and it was military, then self-help, personal development. So for that month, I received 2 awards for my book. Some people don't even, I've only heard of like maybe one person winning 3 awards in 3 different categories. And I don't even know how my book got submitted because I was so busy out trying to interact with veterans campgrounds and people that were lost and struggling. And then I found out, I got an email from the Eric Hoffer Book Award. I'm like, how did my book even get there? And it was like, congratulations, you've been nominated for the prestigious Eric Hoffer Book Award 2025. And I'm like, no way. Like I'm now I'm like a literary award winning author. So, and I didn't think there would be any more books because I said in The Broken Mirror, that was it. I'm not writing no more.
All right.
And then I learned about the author community.
You don't have the
author community. Yeah, the author community. So just last and final, I went to Phoenix and I spoke at an award ceremony. I received my trophy and everything. But I learned that just because everybody was gathered there, people didn't like you. People were jealous of you. Some people don't like you because of the book that you wrote. But I learned that you have to support all those genres. If you want to fit into the author community, you cannot talk about other people's books or disagree with smut or wizardry books and stuff like that. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. And
good?
yeah, that's just a sign, the sign.
Oh, no. I just had to scratch my
But I came back from Phoenix and my buddy Joe told me, hey, I didn't like The Broken Mirror, man. He goes, that is not you because it felt like I was there with you and I wanted you to tell the story. I'm like, okay. So what do you want me to do? He goes, you need to do a memoir about yourself, like your skater days. So I wrote no filter. Like this is it. The bullshit is done. No filter. And on no filter, it has the parent advisory for the O for no. It says parent advisory, but it's in a circle. So
Okay.
it's no parent advisory filter. And it was no filter because I don't use filters. And I don't use filters when I talk. And what it was my childhood, my traumatic childhood, my traumatic marriage or toxic marriage, toxic peace in the government, and resume, no, not resume writing, some leadership and counseling stuff, and then notes to struggling authors about the rabbit hole industry, about paying for book awards and then paying for the trophy and stuff like that. And if you don't believe me, I actually have it on my arm right now. I have Alice and the Rabbit. Alice in Wonderland going down
Yeah.
the rabbit hole because the rabbit lured her in. So
Yep.
when I speak out, people see this and ask me why I have it. This is from No Filter. Because in No Filter, this rabbit is in No Filter. Talks one of the chapters is called The Rabbit Hole.
Mm.
So
Nice.
the last and final book, somebody told me, and that book won 2 National Book Awards for Titan Legendary, 1 silver, 1 gold, which hang right there on my wall. But I got tired of like marketing all my books. So can I show it?
Do it.
I'll be right back in a second.
All right.
I combined all 3 together, man. The Mirror, the Broken Mirror, and No Filter into the Reflection Series Legacy Edition. It's a thick one,
Yes,
but
sir.
what I did was I redid the preface and the prologue, and then I did lessons learned at the back. And I made it very simple. There's some cover artwork in it, which is amazing. Like me and my daughter walking away, and my daughter in a broken mirror.
Mm.
And then I have this is a draft, so the new book looks a lot different. So when you open it up, you have the battlefield theme, the battlefield theme.
Yeah.
So this is only a draft, so it looks a lot better now. But real nice spine. I designed everything,
Nice.
and my life is designed on pillars. 3 pillars: the mirror, the broken mirror, and no filter. Which this is it right here.
Nice.
So now I'm about to go out and do some public speaking and go to an award ceremony in Michigan. And when I leave Michigan, I'll be homeless. Like I will not have a place to live. But I choose that because I'm going abroad. Like I'm going to like Dominic, Costa Rica, Thailand. I want to see the world because for 19 years my daughter held me down. And now my daughter is doing great things in Florida. She's a competitive cheer coach. And I do all this for her, man, to show her that your dad is not a deadbeat dad. I was always known as the deadbeat dad because I mentally abused my family. And now I speak about don't bring that battlefield home to the living room. And you are enough. And if you're struggling, there are people like you, there are people like me who have been through it. And you don't have to be in combat, you know. Nope. You can bring that military toxicity right to the living room, and it don't have to be the battlefield.
Yes.
So I write, and that's what I do, man. I'm not an advocate. I just talk about awareness.
There you go. There you go. And you're just doing the work. You're just doing.
I'm the messenger. I'm the messenger.
That's it, brother. And you're just delivering the message. That's it. What they
and then
do?
I do it with my podcast too. Crawl, walk, run.
What's the title? Oh, Crawl, Walk, Run. Okay.
Yeah, like coach, teach, mentor.
Yep.
Crawl, walk, run. That's what my kid does. Crawl, walk, run. I always explain to her, you're going to crawl, you're going to walk, and you're going to run. You started out nothing as a cheerleader. You're a 2-time world champ now. Now you're a coach. What do you think you're doing? They're crawling, they're walking, they're running. You're a coach, you're a teacher, you're a mentor.
Yeah.
You take it from your dad, kid.
You mean that, brother. Now, where can we see the podcast at?
So this is real quick because I changed my my link from being on radio shows. Radio hosts don't like them long links when people are listening to your show. They don't like that. So it's Storytime with Stevo. But what I did was I put STWS69.com. Storytime with Stevo 69
Yep.
1969.com. That'll take you to my official website, the Reflection Series. It has all the links at the bottom, like a link tree for YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, and my link tree. So all you got to do is go to stws69.com. And yeah, and you'll see the story. There's a story when you open up the website. There's also a contact form where you can reach out. Sometimes I meet people and give my books out for free. This book just happens to be $55, but it's 3 books in one. It's super glossy.
Yeah.
It's on barnesandnobles.com, walmart.com, booksamillion.com. So right now I'm only print on demand, and I just hit Amazon on this. But I will tell you, The Broken Mirror is a 2-time bestseller on Amazon. And it doesn't mean that you sell lots of books. It's your category hit number 1, like anger management, depression. Like you have categories that you put your books in, search categories. So when it hits the number 1 category, your book is a kind of like a bestseller, you know. But there are people that are bestsellers that like sell books like, Harry Potter. I'm not a Harry Potter, and a lot of people don't like mental health books, man. But like, what's cool about my books, they're all on audio except for the Reflection Series. All the other books, The Mirror, The Broken Mirror, No Filter, are narrated by a veteran himself from California. So I definitely tell you that they definitely resonate when you listen to them.
All right. One more question, brother. If there was a message that you could share to those that are suffering in silence like we did, if you have a message that could motivate them to get help, what would that message be?
So my slogan is mental health is a life sentence without parole. And the reason why I say that is I've seen murderers and killers walk out of prisons. When you have what we have, it doesn't matter if it's combat, trauma from an injury, a death, or SA, military sexual trauma. There's always hope. But the demons will always be there, but with coping mechanisms. I'm not talking medication, because a lot of medications, long-term effects will destroy your body mentally and physically. I would say, because the award ceremony I'm going to is all based on hope, I'm going to speak about hope. So hope does not happen overnight. But with people like you and people like me, people spreading awareness, we have way too many 22 a days. I just saw another dude took his life on TikTok, veteran.
What?
Took his life. Yeah, another veteran on TikTok, a guy was talking about it. And he talked to his buddy 3 days ago and said, "Hey, are you all right, man?" He said, "Yeah, I'm doing fine." And he just broke like 100 days sober and got the phone call that dude took his life after he talked to him. We can't afford that no more, man.
No.
And a lot of these people that are doing this, they're not getting the help from the VA system. So this is what I say. If you get out of the military and you don't have a service connected or you're 10%, keep trying. Keep trying to push out to the best that you can get for your disability. Absolutely. And then if you think you deserve more, then you do what I did. I went through Jane Dills, JANEDIS, in West Virginia. They are a case-by-case basis. They are 100%. No, they were 99% of getting veterans 100% P&T. You sign your stuff over to them. You don't talk to the VA no more. And 6 months later, I found out I was 100% PMT.
Just like
But
that.
when you go through agencies like that, you have to report every year and say you're working or you're not working. You still have your dependents. Because when you lose your dependents, you lose part of that 100%, like the cut on the 100%, because some of that is with dependents, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
So if you have a death in the family, you know, but
yeah.
I will tell you, like, there is hope. And it's all about hope, man. And if you are in silence and you want to write about it, talk to your notes on your phone. I do audio monologues all the time, and I go live on TikTok Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 8 to 10 sometimes. Not all the time. And I'm not there for gifts and all that stuff. I'm free. I speak for free. And you can get me on Facebook, Storytime with Steve-O. But time is TYME. So story TYME with Steve-O. So it's William Stevens, Storytime with Steve-O on Facebook, where I do my morning message. So I do a morning message like 10 minutes. I talk about crap that's going on in the world. I don't talk about politics or, I just talk stuff that's raw and try to make somebody. I do know that at least if we get one person to listen or one person to come out of the darkness and survive, we've done our mission. But I learned one thing: you cannot solve the world's problems.
No,
Don't beat yourself down
yeah,
because you're trying to help someone and they took their life. You can only do what you can do. You're not a subject matter expert. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a lawyer, but I've been through shit. But I would rather listen to someone that's been through the shit that's got it out of a book.
mm. All
So,
right. Yeah,
yeah,
all
man.
right. All right,
Hope.
brother William Stevens, you are my
Yep.
brother, man. You are my
Yeah,
brother,
man.
and I appreciate you taking this time to share your story and share your books with me, man. Hey, uh, much love to you and much success on your speaking engagements. And brother, I really hope that you enjoy your travels because it is well earned.
Oh, it is.
Well
It
earned.
will be well earned, well earned. But I start my podcast back up in October, so I'll have you on the show, man.
Absolutely. Just let me know when, brother. And yeah, we can work something out. I'll share my story with you.
Yeah, man.
Absolutely.
Always, dude. And
Look,
I'll recommend people for your show, and you recommend people for my show. It's a veteran helping veteran, man. And then
veteran
I'm
helping.
also checking out your other show.
Yes. Thank you
Yeah,
so
man.
much, my friend. Thank you so much, man. And
Yeah, man.
thank you, ladies and gentlemen, or who's ever watching. Just continue to support what we're doing and support my brother William. He got his book up there, the Reflection Series. Go check it out. And man, please, ladies and gentlemen, go check it out. This is a good dude. I really appreciate what he brought to this interview. And you are my brother, man, and I appreciate you.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Will do. Ladies and gentlemen, this is another episode of Soldier Stories. Stay tuned for upcoming episodes. Support your boy and his growth. Go to my YouTube channel and subscribe and check him out. Storytime with Steve-O, brother William Stevens. Have a good day, sir.
Yeah, man.
All right. Peace, man.
Yeah, man.
All right. Bye-bye.
Yep.